Ladies and gentlemen, cobbers and champs, there's a lot of aspect ratios in this game, and I'm going to tell you all about them, all the pros, all the cons, and a little secrets in there to make certain aspect ratios a lot better. So let's get started. Alright, so here we're starting with 5:4. This is my favorite aspect ratio for myself. It allows me to play very aggressive, and it's incredibly good to see pixel angles. And it just also makes my aim feel really nice, and my recoil feels absolutely amazing. It makes like recoil non-existent on this aspect ratio. It is just personal preference, but I feel like it's the best. 5:4 by far is the best when using hollow sights because you can just be so accurate with them. You can challenge any gunfight from any range with 5:4, which is why I love it. The only thing that can sometimes get a little bit annoying, but you'll get used to it pretty fast, is going ahead and when you're wide swinging to a person that's really close, like to your door, that can be a little difficult. But I'm going to show you in a little bit what pixel angles look like. Alright, so here's a pixel angle. You can see the tiny yellow dude in that little corner. Look how easy it is for me to see the very tip of his head. It's incredibly easy for me to just look at his head from almost any distance on 5:4. Since it's so wide, all pixels are really wide, so it's very easy for me to spot tiny movements from the enemies and tiny little pixel angles, which is why I love this so much. We're gonna go ahead and go to 4:3 next, but yeah, this is why I love 5:4. This is why it's my favorite for those reasons, and I feel like it's superior to 4:3 just because it's the best version of stretch, which means it's like the best version of wider pixels. Like, it's as wide as you can get, so that's why I love it. Alright, so this is 4:3. It is stretched. Not as stretched as 5:4, but it's still stretched. And with 90 FOV, you can use ACOG pretty comfortably. With 84 FOV, which is, ooh, Shaiko, right? It makes you very, very good with hollows, and it's just so consistent, and you can just look at any range. But instead of doing 4:3 which is really popular, and it is really good, but once you use it enough and you get used to it, I suggest using 5:4 because it's like 4:3 but better. You'll understand if you try it. So yes, 4:3 is absolutely fantastic. You can never go wrong with 4:3. It is very strong in the sense that you can see enemies very well. You can use ACOGs really, really well, as I said prior, but the only problem with 4:3 is that sometimes ACOGs can be clunky, especially using 84 FOV, just because if you have, let's say, a larger monitor, it's gonna be very clunky to play with an ACOG, just because it takes up so much space off your screen. And hollows, you can just use those consistently, but at the same time, some of those very far gunfights, it'll be kind of hard to take with 4:3 compared to 5:4. So 4:3, absolutely fantastic. It's very, very good. It's very well rounded out. So I do suggest you use 4:3 stretch res. Alright, so this is what vertical play looks like in 4:3's perspective. Right now, we're checking main stairs, like it's a default angle. To check the walk-ups. This is what it looks like with ACOG, and then hollow as well. You can tell it gives you a good, and I mean in a fantastic amount of view distance. And here's with 84 FOV, which I feel is just a little better with hollow, just because it's more zoomed in, so it's easier for you to see the walk-ups and the pixels, and that's what it looks like with ACOG. So those are the two best FOVs, I feel like, is 90 and 84 with 4:3. A lot more pros than cons, so I do suggest you use this if you're trying to try out stretched res. Alright, this is 3:2. 3:2, not super stretched. It's a little stretched, more stretched than 16:10, but not like 4:3 or 5:4. So the good thing is, it's a mid-ground, right? Between all the stretch res and not so stretched. But that's also a double-edged sword. That's also a bad thing. That is due to the fact that it's not efficient in anything, it's just a mid-ground. So some people do use this, but it's neither really good for ACOGs and it's neither really good for hollows. It's just okay. It doesn't excel in either of those things. It does give you a good amount of FOV. It does look good. It doesn't make your game look like crap. And here's what a pixel looks like with ACOG. And this is what a pixel looks like. I hope it shows it with a hollow. If it did show it, sorry. But it looks pretty good. 3:2, I do recommend it, but I don't recommend it for everyone just because it's not very efficient at a lot of things. There's just better aspect ratios why I feel like 3:2 is just kind of meh. Alright, so this is what vertical play looks like when you're on 3:2. You'll be able to see that the bars are a little closer together compared to the other two aspect ratios that I've covered. Still really good line of sight when you're looking down onto main, but when you go to hollow, you can tell that it's a little harder. It's more zoomed out to look through those vertical holes. So yeah, that's what vert looks like. Just you can try this aspect ratio out, but it's okay. Alright, this is 16:10. 16:10 is a very, very popular aspect ratio, and I understand why. Here's the thing, here's the biggest pro. When using 16:10, ACOGs feel phenomenal. I tried it out when I was doing this little target drill. Using an ACOG actually feels really good on 16:10. However, a hollow is still usable, right? But it doesn't feel as good as in stretch res. But ACOGs feel really well. You still have really, 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 really good peripherals. Your FOV is awesome when it's at 90, so you can see a lot around you. You can still see pixels, just not as efficiently as in stretch reses, but this feels really good. If you just like having a lot of FOV and being able to see like a lot of what's around you, I do recommend 16:10, especially if you really like ACOGs. If you really like ACOGs, 16:10 would be perfect for you if you use them all the time. So this is what I'm going to show a pixel in a little bit, hopefully, of what it looks like when you're using a hollow looking at a pixel right there. And then I'm going to show you what it looks like using an ACOG on that pixel. And it's really nice. It's a really solid aspect ratio. So give this a try if you really like ACOGs. And right here I'm going to be comparing 16:10, right, to 5:4. This is what a 5:4 pixel looks like in comparison. You can tell that it's a lot easier to see a pixel in 5:4 with hollow and ACOG, but your FOV does take a hit compared to 16:10. If we go back, a lot of more FOV, and it's a little harder to see those pixels with hollow, but ACOG very efficient. So right here we're gonna look at vert with 16:10. ACOG phenomenal, looks awesome. Those long angles feel great. But the thing is, when you're using hollow, it's going to feel tight because those bars are tighter. And it's going to feel a little weird. For me personally, it's kind of hard to take these gunfights. Alright, now we're going to 5:3. This is a little slimmer than 16:10, but not quite 16:9. This is a strange aspect ratio. It excels at ACOG, right? Like, it's super good. Better than 16:10 with ACOG. But hollow frickin' stinks on it. However, I'm going to tell you a little trick in a little bit, but let's wait on that. So this is what a pixel looks like into Garage with ACOG. Phenomenal. Really easy to see those long angles. And not just that, but you have a lot of peripheral views when you're looking through an ACOG. You can see a lot of what's outside on that ACOG. But as you just saw, hollow, pixel, barely noticeable. It's not great. But with ACOG, I promise you, you will fall in love with 5:3 if you use ACOG only more than 16:10. So here I'm just going to take a couple of shots. I'm testing out hollow. Hollow here feels kind of weird just because everything is so far out. It just made me uncomfortable to use hollow. Just because it's just so odd. It just feels so inefficient to use it. Alright, so here's that little pixel test I've been doing. This is what hollow looks like on 5:3, right? When taking the pixel. And it stinks. It's kind of annoying. It's very hard to see those movements if someone is moving there. Alright, so here we're going to make some vert. Check it out with 5:3. ACOG looks awesome. Very easy to see. Hollow feels so far out. It just feels so far out. And I hate it. But here's a trick. I don't know why. This was weird. I was messing around with FOV, but I turned 5:3, turned down the FOV to 73. And I don't know what kind of magic happened, but this actually felt so smooth. Every sight felt amazing, including the hollow, and everything just felt so well-rounded. It felt like a better version of 16:10. So, if you want to try this out, it's good, and it feels great, but it's weird at first. You have to get used to the way it looks, because it looks kind of boxy, but it feels really good. Alright, what's next? Of course, 16:9. I'm going to cover 16:9, 21:9, and 19:10, all in this same little portion. but here's what 16 by 9 looks like. ACOG, the only usable thing on 16 by 9, honestly. And it still feels a little odd just because everything's still so far out. I would say that 16 by 9 is very good if you have a slower reaction time, just because everything moves so slow. So yeah, 16 by 9 felt very slow. The peripherals are great, but honestly, everything is too far out. It's not super efficient, and I only feel like you should use 16 by 9 if your monitor is really big and it's hard for you to see. Because it just feels so clunky, and there are definitely people that play 16 by 9, but they have large monitors. That's what I've realized. But also, a lot of support players do play 16 by 9, so if you want to give that a try, go ahead. So this is 16 by 9 vertically, just so far out. Honestly, it just feels weird. I don't like it. I really don't. Now we're gonna go ahead and take a look at 1910, even farther out. 19 by 10 only uses if you have like a giant monitor, or your monitor is only specifically used by 19 by 10, because it just feels so odd. Even pixels there with ACOG itself feels tiny, and pixels with hollow are non-existent. Unless you have a very specific monitor, I do not recommend 1910 or 21 by 9. 21 by 9 is like even worse. It freaking stinks. I hated using this. Pixels, you can't even see them, honestly. You can probably like barely see the color change. Like, and even with ACOG, it just feels so far out. It literally feels like I'm playing a game with a maze. Everything is just so mazy, clunky. It hurts your eyes. This is only specifically made, this aspect ratio, for specific monitors. Please don't use this. It'll give you a headache. Everything is so blocky. I'll just let you watch the rest, just so you get a feel of what it looks like. It's just unsettling. But yeah, those are all the aspect ratios. Go ahead and try every single one of them. You never know, you might like 21 by 9 for all you know. So try all of them and let me know which one was your favorite.